What's up, crew? Hope you're having a rad day. If you're looking for my latest riding adventure, check that corner link. In this episode, we complain. I'm Alan, and this is the Airhorn Podcast.
This is the Airhorn Podcast. Gonna slow down and talk about going fast. It's another mountain biking podcast, and we sometimes answer questions you have. Listen at 1 1/4 speed. You can listen in any order you please. It might be the worst, it could be the best. Sometimes it's just me, sometimes there's a guest. It's the Airhorn Podcast.
I'm Alan, and in this episode of the Airhorn Podcast, I sit down with Josh from Daily Mountain Bike Rider, and the two of us air out some of our favorite pet peeves. We discuss the bike industry, overbiking, stuff that other riders do on the trail that bug us, and yes, we talk e-bikes. We also discover the surprising reason why Josh can't tell the difference between different forks. So if you're into this, grab a beverage or set that cruise control, settle in, and enjoy the conversation. Cool. Well, okay. So thanks, Josh, for showing up, aka Daily Mountain Bike Rider. Thanks for doing this. How you doing, man? How you doing?
Dude, I'm doing so well. I knew the day was going to come where I was going to get the call up to the big leagues and to be with MTB Alon, as I call you, MTB Alan. And yeah, when you hit me up like, hey man, I had like 3 of the pro YouTubers cancel and I wanted to pick a little guy. And I was like, finally. Yeah. No, I'm doing good, man. I'm stoked to be chatting with you, and I got a lot of problems, and I'm just happy for this counseling session. That's what it is, right? You're going to.
It is. Yeah. Nobody else is watching this. It's just me and you. So this is a safe space.
You're recording this to be like, no, Josh, I think you have a little bit of an anger problem. No, I don't. Let me play the footage back.
Let me play it in slow motion.
Yeah.
That's great. So yeah, I've asked Josh here to like talk about the stuff, our pet peeves, stuff that bugs us. And quite honestly, I was reluctant to do this kind of thing because, you know, I'm all about like stoke and rad vibes and positivity. But I know stuff bugs me, and I was reaching out to people who are willing to talk about what bugs them, and you answered the call. But then I put the post out on Instagram, or a story out on Instagram, and a post on YouTube. And I am learning that there is a lot of angst in the mountain bike world.
Mm-hmm. Dude, when you spend so much time on in the same spot, like your local trail system, or when you travel, like you start picking up on stuff, and it's kind of like being in a relationship. For any of us who are in a relationship, like whether it's your spouse or your girlfriend or your brother or sister, like over time, you're like, at first I thought this was fine, and now it's just bugging the heck out of me.
But it's like but it all comes out when you go on vacation. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And I think like our mountain bike rides are like these little mini vacations. So any like little thing, like it's so easy to get on our nerves. But I see. So Josh and I like have been like kind of as a note, we are going to cover some of your comments from those posts. So hang tight. We're going to come back to those because there are some rich ones in there. But we, Josh and I, have a little document that we did some bulleting, did some bulleted lists. Yeah, some bullets.
I want to say we spent at least like 30 hours just refining the list and throwing out ideas. And
a whole week. We'd spend a whole week. Josh, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 top level bullet points from Josh with a bunch of sub bullets. So.
Narrowed down from like 3,000. So I'm pretty happy to be down to 10.
That's good. It's nice and clean. So, okay, I'm going to ask you about this first one, which is bikes with too much travel. Okay, wait, before we go any further, one more thing.
Yeah.
I was reading through this and I was like, is Josh thinking about me in most of these? Like, I swear, like a lot of these are like,
I was going to start this one by saying, Alan, you didn't get like a new bike recently with a lot of travel, right? Just double checking.
Dude. Did you see my overbiking is not a crime shirt?
Do you really? I did not see that shirt. Did I miss that?
It's on my Teespring. I ordered it. It hasn't shown up yet, but I have an overbiking is not a crime shirt.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal that logo and make overbiking is a crime shirt. Dude. So yeah, like jumping right in, like it bugs me to no end the amount of people who have bikes with way too much travel. And what I see is that somebody gets into mountain biking, they borrow their friend's hardtail or they buy a bike and instantly they're like, yeah, I want the new Transition Sentinel or the Santa Cruz Mega Tower or the SB 3000. You're like, I think they only make SB 150. And you're like, no, I need the 3000. And it's this feeling. And I hear people, it's like, they think I'll be faster. I'll do more jumps. My life will be way better if I just had more squish. Yeah. And I'm like, that's just not it. And for my local system here in Bellingham, 140 fork and 120 rear travel bike for all of our major trails, that's all you need. And
but isn't it like a guitar amp where like like it doesn't matter if you're playing in your living room, you want like as much amplification as you can just in case, even if you only ever turn it up to 2.
And I'm a bass player, and so I had a big stack, and I realized I don't need this. I'm not playing in an arena. Like, this is dumb. So that's like.
But what if you need to, Josh? What if like?
And I will. And here's the thing: like, if my skills grow to the point where I am hucking to flat off like 20-foot cliffs, like, I should probably upgrade my bike at that point. Like, that's a good time to upgrade. But like,
yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I understand that. Yeah. No.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my thing is like everyone thinks they need more travel. And here's my other thing. I think you become a much more skilled, confident rider on less travel. I think people who are willing to take the brunt of a hardtail or try something smaller in the travel range, like I said, like 140, 120.
Okay, hold up. We're not trying to teach anybody here anything. We're just complaining right now. We're just complaining. Let's stay on topic here.
I hate everyone with 160 and more. No, yeah, I've been there, and I'm just like, get over it, guys. Everyone, just stop drinking the Kool-Aid. Stop drinking the marketing magic. Ride the bike you have. Less travel's fine.
Yeah. Sweet.
I can tell you disagree. It's great. This is good.
No. I have like, I always have like these nuanced ways of thinking about stuff. Cause I think about my journey, like it to 170, like starting from like 140, like, you know, like kind of coming up like through that. And I was like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. I was just listening to the, Worldwide Cyclery podcast, and they were or the MTB podcast that's run by Worldwide Cyclery. But yeah, are there any of my pet peeves that you were curious about? Oh,
yes. There were many that stood out to me. Let's talk about too much chit chat, because I'm all about chit chat. So
yeah, but is it on the trail, like before you drop in?
Well, you tell me what your pet peeve is first.
Yeah. So for me, it's like you spent all this time to get on the bike. Like we've got our gear. I've got my riding gear on, right? And so I want to go riding. So like pedaling and chatting, totally cool with that, because we are doing something. We are getting to the top. But when you get to the top and people are talking about what suspension setting, or what shock is that? Is that the Flimda or is it that's an F262 spring there? And they just go on and on about it, and I'm just like, can we drop in now? Like, are we mountain biking right now, or what are we doing? That kind of like, that drives me nuts. I get like really frustrated. Don't get me wrong. Post ride in the parking lot with a couple of cold sodas, sitting on the ice box, like I will chat for an hour or 2 hours afterwards. But on the trail, too much chit chat, no likey.
Yeah, I will agree with you there, and I think you nailed it. Talking on the pedal up, everything's fair game. You're like, my life is miserable. I hate to be here. Yeah, let's talk about spring rates. What is it like to have a 450-pound spring, right? Like, so I'm with you there. Like, let's keep let's keep the talking before we drop into a minimum and save that for the climbs. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a particular type of chat before dropping in that really gets on my nerves, and it is the advice, like the unwarranted, unasked for advice. Like, you will just make a comment like, oh, I like that last descent, my rear end felt like I was just pinging around all over the place. And then it's just like, oh, well, have you tried Cushcore? Have you tried a spring? Have you tried a Yeti? Have you tried a murmur? And I'm just like, no.
You need more PSI. I'm pretty sure he needs less. No, he needs more. And he needs a token.
Yeah.
Well, he can't do that right now. So, hey, do you want to change your air pressure? Yeah, I don't have a shock pump. Cool. Let me tell you what you need to do right this second.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So, how about this one? Like, you have this comment about dumbing down trails. Like, what's that about?
Yeah. So this is a huge thing that I've seen a lot more of my local trails with COVID, because new riders are coming around, and this was a lot of the comments that I saw, Alan, from your YouTube posts and Instagram too, is people who, there's a difficult section in a trail. Let's say it's a rock garden. And so they think, this is hard for me. I bet it's hard for everybody else. So I'm going to put a bunch of dirt in there to make it easier. Or we have a lot of trees and roots here. And so there's some sections that are very rooty. And so people come, and I don't know what they bring, but they like bring an axe and cut out roots. And we're like,
what?
Yeah. So it's like, one, you're killing trees. And two, it's like, it's not that hard. And so what people do is they try to dumb down the trail. They try to make it easier, or they make a ride around a B line instead of an A line. And my big thing is, if you don't like a trail and you didn't build it, then you can't change it. And if you don't like it, don't ride it, right? And unfortunately, for me, it's not just the people who go out and build and do it. It's taking the B lines. It's taking the sneaker lined around a tree, and you go, man, that's not how the trail is designed. And I actually have a trail that I adopt here in Bellingham. And so it's constantly trying to route people in the right direction to go down where they're supposed to. Mine's not too bad, but some are worse, but it's a constant reminder.
I fully agree. And it's funny that you tied it to a lot of the new riders that are coming in. We see that there's like a local trail system, Greer Ranch, and I've been seeing that there, where there's, I've been riding there a couple of years, and there's places where it's a rock garden, and it rained recently, and now it's like, it's a rock supported dirt path. I think like IMBA showed up or something, but like, yeah, it's just like that happens, but
hey,
at the same time
here.
Yeah. But at the same time, I kind of have to be like, well, okay, we're not supposed to be positive here, but I was going to say, like, at least people are caring about it. They kind of understand that. But I do tell people, I say this all the time, if you're new to mountain biking and you do want to get into trail maintenance, cut back shrubbery.
Yeah.
Don't pick up a shovel, get clippers, like start there.
Yeah, and cut back shrubbery that you can tell, you know what, this is in the way of where everyone's trying to go. Yes, cut that down, right? Yeah. You can't.
Yeah.
Dude, if you weed whack or bushwhack, like, you can't get in trouble for that. That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
All right, Alan, I'm curious. Tell me about the oversimplification of the mountain bike industry. Because dude, you should just make your suspension plush, set it and forget it, and just dude, just get 12 speeds. You're good.
Right. Exactly. Oh man. It's like, it's always like, there's a couple of things where it's like, this is the answer to all of your problems. This is the panacea, whatever it is. And it's like, it's whatever, it's some linkage system, or it's some rock shocks, or it's Fox, or whatever. But for me, what's worse than that is the bike industry is out to get us. Like they're making bikes better just to get us to spend more money. Like it's always like, it's this kind of like us versus them oversimplification of the bike industry, where I look like, if you talk to anybody in the bike industry, there's a lot of people who are in it for the passion. They're not getting paid. They're not getting paid a lot of money. There's a lot of like, that's how people are getting paid back, is by like getting to go ride, being involved in bikes. And so like when people are always like, anything new comes out, it's like, oh, the bike, they're just trying to like screw us over and make us spend more money. Like that kind of drives me a bit nuts.
Yeah. Oh, 27.5 is going to change my life. Oh, a degree, slacker head tube angle. It's like, well, realize something. Like, I watched a really interesting interview with, I think it was with Santa Cruz from, oh gosh, I forget the YouTube channel, which is, anyway. But it was with the owner, and it's the realization of like, yeah, Santa Cruz makes a lot of bikes. They have a big warehouse. It's easy to look around Bellingham and be like, these are huge companies. They're not though. Like they have less than 20 employees. They started by normal guys just trying to make bikes. And if your job is making a piano, don't you want that piano to be better? Like, don't you personally want it to be like a better experience for you and the people of your customers? Like, yeah. So they make things better every now and then. Do they make things better just for hype? And yeah, do they do that with colorways? And Specialized has a new frame every year. Well, it's actually they just change one part. So yeah, sometimes that happens, but a majority of the time, it's normal folks like you and I with expertise in the field trying to make our lives better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. Okay, this is hot button topic that there's no way I'm gonna like not bring this up.
Oh, let's bring it.
E-bikes. E-bikes, the culture of selfishness with e-bikes.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Go ahead.
No.
And the other one is, and I think we saw a lot of this in the comments coming from Instagram and YouTube about not obeying trail system rules against e-bikes.
Yeah. So I made a e-bike video recently where I got a Walmart e-bike, and I started it by saying,
I saw that.
I don't like e-bikes. I have no plan to buy e-bikes. And if you look at my comments, it's like every 5 is like, this guy doesn't like e-bikes. This guy's an idiot. Why are you buying one? This is so, how could you not like e-bikes? Or like, it's just like saying like, you're some old school person who thinks like, you think the horse and buggy should come back. I'm like, yeah, that would be a great comeback. Like that would sell well. I really like the idea of e-bikes. Like I like the idea of being able to get twice as much riding and only adding a little bit more time. That sounds really fun. I like the idea of somebody who's come out of a difficult surgery or has, a weak heart or a weak legs getting on a bike and riding. No one's ever going to like say anything negative about that. But the issue with e-bikes, and this is what people say a lot of the time, is like, I need an e-bike because I'm a dad with 2 kids and I can't go pedal every day. So when I ride once a month, I want to keep up with my friends. And I'm like, that's not it. Like, that's not what e-bikes are. Like, I don't think that culture should be accepted, because here's what they're also saying. I'm more busy than all of you guys, and therefore I'm not willing to put in the hard work. And here's the other thing. The point of an e-bike is to get more time on the trails. And unless you're an avid trail builder and like using your e-bike to carry up a wheelbarrow of tools, like most e-bike riders use and abuse the trails and don't give back to them more than the average rider. Now, a lot of average riders do that as well. And that's another pet peeve, is like, how can we give financially to our trail systems? How much money do people pay to go to the gym? And we have these amazing hand-built trails and people don't pay hardly anything, right? But with e-bikes, that culture is alive so much more. It's just, and I call it a culture of selfishness. And then again, the other thing that comes along with that is the trail systems. Our main local trail system is not allow e-bikes. They've made it abundantly clear. And I can't go on a ride without seeing an e-bike. And it's just like, once again, that's a culture of selfishness. Oh, they say I'm not supposed to, but this is the only bike I have. Well, you spent $6,000 on it, so that's on you, right? Like, and so that just like grinds my gears. Sorry, I'll quit talking so you can speak about it.
No, it's kind of like, I kind of wanted to think about it like when snowboarding started, right? Where like snowboards weren't allowed on a lot of ski resorts. But I think that kind of point you're making though about like, you could still go and buy like an acoustic bike and ride that as well. But yeah, I agree with you on a lot of points in terms of like that culture, right? Like e-bikes themselves, like I just recently rode the Bullet and I had a really good time. pedaling up and getting a bunch of laps and like not really feeling it, like I just felt it like cardio wise, and that was fine. I had a blast on that bike. And I had a blast with my buddy who was on an e-bike. The thing that I really came to realize though is that like I have way less patience now for somebody on an e-bike who is rude. Going uphill. There was a bunch of comments about that. All the like negative e-bike comments were never about like the e-bikes themselves or even people like having fun on them. It had to do with people like how they were behaving on e-bikes. And I think you can do the same. Like I'll get into that in a second. But like when I was pedaling up the hill on the e-bike, I realized there'd sometimes be somebody in front of me who was on an acoustic bike. Mm-hmm. And guess what? Like gearing down and like chilling behind somebody is really easy on an e-bike.
Yeah.
So like it was really easy for me to let the person pass when they wanted to. And if they felt like taking longer because they knew I was on an e-bike, because they like, they've kind of felt that way, I was fine with it because like it's easy.
Yeah.
And then once I passed them, if I wanted to, I could like kick it into boost and like get up the hill faster. But yeah, I was just like, I felt like I had even more reason to be kind and cool with other people because I was on an e-bike. And I find it's interesting that like it can, for some people, turn them into like something else. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good point. My Walmart Hyper e-bike, you cannot control the speed, but
that's crazy.
That's because it's terrible. And it's a rear hub driven. But yeah, your point is valid. Like, the reason that the motors are put in the cranks is because it, basically doubles your output, or it's like a multiplication of your output. So you can go to a lower gear and just take it easy and go a slow pace. Yeah, and totally. And once again, I think you brought up the snowboard and skiing thing. That's a point people bring up a lot. This is just like snowboarding. People didn't like snowboarding because it was different, and my response to that is absolutely. And the fact that there's still a resort in, is it Utah, that doesn't allow snowboards? It's really dumb. Oh yeah, there's just one left. But it's like, man, that's like, feels like some, discrimination junk. And that's not e-bikes. Like, I think you said it and I would agree to it. I have no issue with e-bikes. I have issue with the culture that e-bikes breed. So if I'm not in my city I live in, but in another state on an unsanctioned trail and I see an e-bike, I could care less because that's the best spot to ride an e-bike is like on an unsanctioned trail on some other private property or, forest land. And it's like, sure, like everybody's kind of breaking the laws and you can do what you want. You can ride an e-bike here. Or we have big, not trails to climb, but like big Forest Service roads. Like, sure, ride an e-bike on there. There's plenty of space for somebody to pass you. But being a jerk on single track climb trails on an e-bike and like pass, which I've seen happen. It's like, calm down. Like, that's not cool.
Yeah. And I think that kind of gets at what a lot of people said in general, not specifically about e-bikes, but just like people being rude on trails. And that's like, it goes a couple of different ways. And one thing I was going to say earlier is like, I can see looking at going back to your hate of big travel bikes.
Oh,
like,
man.
Being on a big travel bike, but when you're on a downhill, right? If I come across somebody who's on a 130 mil bike and we're going through a rock garden and they're in front of me, they might be going slower to me because of the bike that they're on. If we switched bikes, like they might be the faster one. So I have to be
fake news. Sorry, keep going.
Okay. Oh, that's right. That's one of the things that you disagree with. Well, no, like taking the same skill level, right? I think if you had two people who had the same level of skill and you put one person on like going through a rock garden, a person on like a bigger travel bike is going to get through faster.
Maybe.
Same level of skill? Okay, maybe. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Same level of skill, I will say, depending on the rock garden. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. I'm just thinking
be
about
on my bonnet. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No. I totally get it. But see, I also have ridden behind you. And while we've never ridden any technical stuff, I can tell how much control and awareness you have on your bike. And like somebody like you could take like a 130 mil bike and take it on some of the gnarliest stuff and just skip over most of it with like a couple of jumps. I totally get that.
But yes, I think a less skilled rider. Yeah, I'm with you. And I think you were making the point, like if somebody has less travel or maybe a little below you in skill, you're going to be patient with them, right? You're not going to be a jerk about it. And e-bikes, it doesn't feel like that's the same culture. Yeah,
people were commenting in the Instagram post about people, like a couple of people in a row commented about people stopping in the middle of the trail. And that is one of my pet peeves for sure, because I just don't get it, because like if I'm going down a trail, I'm riding on this trail, and then I stop in the middle of it. Do I think I'm the only one? Like that nobody else is going to come down the same trail as me? Like I never understand that.
Yeah. Like reasons to stop in the middle of a trail. Like you just crashed and you're unconscious. Yeah. Totally fine. Right.
Acceptable.
Yeah. Someone called you and someone texted you like, hey, your mom died. Like, okay, you can stop in the middle of a trail because that's a tough day. Right. But like, yeah. And I think another thing I'll bring up too is clogging the entrance of a trail. That's another thing. Yeah. It's like it's self-awareness on a bike. Like 3 people will come up to the entrance of a trail and you're like, for some reason, like 10 people could come through here, but the 3 of you are blocking, like 10 people could line up and start here, but like 3 of you sideways blocks everyone. It's like, come on, just get to the side. Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen that happen like at a bike park where there's an entrance of the trail. There's 20 or 30 people kind of around getting ready to go. And like 3 people will come up and literally like ride past 30 people and stop right in front of the trail, like in front of the entrance. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like, what? Yeah. What are you doing?
If you want to ride by to go ride the trail, have at it. But don't.
Yeah. So here's one that you posted or that you wrote, and I saw that a couple of other people wrote this too. I think Joseph Trail Features wrote this, which is bro culture. If you don't if you make YouTube videos, you're a tool.
Yeah. This goes multiple areas, but that's one of them that I see very much more on the margins now. But at the beginning of my YouTube career, it was, it's a passive aggressive culture of I'm better than you. You're not as good of a rider. You don't know everything. You're giving people advice on bikes when you don't know much about bikes. It's like, yeah, but sometimes people want to find advice from a nobody who doesn't, hey, the rear squish is better than the front squish. It's called a fork and a shock. Or people call their front fork shocks. That happens all the time. And I'm like, I don't make fun of people for that. It's like, no, that's just where they're at that time. And so there's this culture of entitlement and I'm better than you. And sometimes that happens on trail, unfortunately. Like I have a buddy who rides with like big fenders. He's got a really nice bike. It's a new Sentinel, like V2, but he rides with really big fenders because he rides every day and gets mud everywhere. And he's like, dude, people have roasted me over my fenders. Like, you look like an idiot, or or like nice fenders, buddy. It's like, that's like, who cares, right? Or what I've seen is I used to be much more of a troll than I am now. I need to get back to my trollish antics, but I would like buy funny tank tops. Like I had a pineapple tank top. I need to bring out the pineapple tank top. And I would wear like pink shirts and like weird socks, and like I didn't even have mountain bike shoes, and I would have my Rally Tokel at like my cheap hardtail. And I just be like, hey, what's up, guys? How are you? And these guys just kidded out and be like, yo,
can I ride with you?
No. And then I'd be like, hey, can I lead on this one? And they're like, and like, I'd have you guys be like, if you want to. And then I'd go down a trail and at the end I'd be like, dude, you rock. That was epic. I'm like, yeah, I'm surprised you did that. But no, I've seen guys who were like, just straight up like, hey man, how's it going? Fine. And then they just ignore you. It's like, that's not cool to do to any human being, but like in a tight knit community, that's like not cool. And that culture exists in a lot of places.
Do you think, so it's interesting because you're in Bellingham, right?
Yeah.
Do you think some of it is that there's like so much more like biking culture there? Like there's way more of a pecking order? Because like Well, here in Southern California, I feel like there's not as much of that. Like you'll maybe get that, like, if you have a crew of people that are like all like full face, like big travel bikes, and then you have somebody who's like more XC bike, like maybe they're not gonna like. But I feel like there's like not quite as much of that here. Maybe there is. Maybe I just don't see it.
It's marginal. So like it's on the margin. So like,
oh, okay, you said that.
Yeah. And so an average rider who just rides on Gower, they wouldn't notice that. I think it happens in very small instances. And so I think once you start again going to other cities and riding unsanctioned trails, you start to see it a lot more. And not that there's any unsanctioned trails in any cities around the US.
No,
but if there
was.
That's where you start to see it more. And you can get some outright very just mean people that it's like, and I always ask myself, like, what led to you being that way? And I don't say that in a negative way, but it's like, man, like I feel bad for people if they have to be rude to people on the trails or put people down. It's like something's happened in your life where you need to compensate in that way. And I just feel bad. It's like, don't do that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I always try to just tell myself like, yeah, I don't want to get into this person's like thing. I don't want to get into their junk at all. Yeah. I have one about that's related to the bro culture, which is like the casing a jump being the unforgivable sin.
How could you, man? You suck. You cased one jump.
Yeah.
I case a jump every day. It's like I ride my bike every day. I case a jump every day. Sorry.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like I don't know how many. Sometimes I haven't even cased the jump. It's just like sometimes I'll land like nose first and then like slam my back wheel into the ground just because I like the way that feels. And like I'll have people be like they'll pronounce like me as like a subhuman because I cased the jump. That gets on my nerves. That little thing right there.
Do you see that out on the trails or like on YouTube comments?
YouTube comments. Yeah. Nobody says it to your face because they usually can't keep up with me. Just kidding.
Keyboard courage is a real thing. Like people over a keyboard think they're better. And Alan, I've watched some of the trails that you've ridden or Seth or Skills with Phil that I've never ridden on. And I just go, every now and then I'll be like, I feel like they're going slower. I think I could do that. And then I get to places in real life. I'm like, holy cow, how'd you do that, man? That was awesome. I wouldn't do that. And the GoPro effect's real. Like, I think we all have that, but the people who actually like the thought pops into their mind. And they're like, I'm going to write about this. You stink. It's like, well, I don't know. Like, it's like, if you totally think that, like, if people think I stink, like, just don't comment, don't give a thumbs down, just like move on. That's my
or go ride the trail.
Yeah. But to be fair, the more people comment, the more that your video gets pushed. So negative comment technically help.
That's all engagement. Yeah. So like, give me hater comments all you want. But here's what's funny. I've got a dueling one. I've got one from Jason Richardson, who is saying it bugs him when people are checking stuff all the time, checking everything all the time, which like cracks me up, which is like, I don't know if he's talking about like what my suspension settings are all the time, but
there's like two people. So one is I don't know if you've heard it's PTPS. Have you heard about this? PTPS. It's a new thing. It's Paul the Punter syndrome. So, yeah, Paul the Punter syndrome. PTPS. Paul's like, oh, that trail felt terrible. I think I need one click of compression more. Like, Paul, like one click isn't going to make a difference. Bollocks, Josh. Don't be like that. It makes a difference. And then he'll like go down and be like, I have too much PSI. I need to reduce it by 3 PSI. It's like, just ride your bike, man. That's not going to make a difference. So I feel like I have people, like I see people do that all the time. It's like that they're constantly complaining about if I just had this thing, it would make my bike different. And I'm the exact opposite. I'm like, this fork doesn't work. Okay, let's keep riding. Like, let's just go for it. It's like,
yeah, I'm the same way. Like, especially around jumps. I feel like I'll often hear people say one of two things. They'll get bucked on a jump, and it's not because of jump technique, but it's because either they've got they need to slow down their rebound,
Mm-hmm.
or the jump is too lippy. And
Yes.
like, to me, I'm always just like, well, I mean, you could change your rebound, but the jump's not going to change. Like, you got to change. Yeah. That kind of blaming stuff on other things. Like, because I've jumped on other people's bikes. Like, you know, if you've ever demoed bikes, like, you want to like cure yourself of that, go demo a couple of bikes.
Yep.
You know, and like, yeah.
Or I have a Shock Whiz. Have you ever used a Shock Whiz?
I have.
And it'll tell you like add 2 clicks compression, add 2 clicks rebound, and then you add it, and it's like take away 3 clicks rebound. It's like, wait a second, there's like a window of like 5 clicks of rebound that I could use, and it would all be fine, right? And so that's where I feel like people need to realize you nailed it. Your bad jump technique is not your bike; it's you, and you can jump on a terribly set up bike. It's not as fun, but you'll still be okay. The other checking that happens that I'm guessing he references well is the guy who goes, I'm so tired. Does my rear tire look flat? No, your rear tire's not flat. You're just like tired. My bike feels weird. I think a bolt's loose. It's like, nah, quit checking your bike. You're just riding you're picking terrible lines. No wonder your bike feels bad. I have people like that all the time. I need to check this. I don't think you need to check that. I think you just need to ride.
Yeah. But on the flip side, you kind of have this about like, I think this is kind of broad, but like there's a broader theme here, but you have this thing about like not checking your tire pressure, like never checking your tire pressure. Like,
dude, don't get me started. And that's the opposite of the issue. So that's not PTPS. That's like DS dummy syndrome. It's just like, dude, I see people all the time. I'm like, your tire is like basically flat. I'm like, what PSI are you running? Well, I pumped it up to 25. Oh, before your ride? No, in January. Like, it's September. What are you talking about? Right? Like, I see that all the time, and I tell people, you've got to check your tire pressure. You can't just put your bike in your car after like 3 weeks of it sitting around. Temperatures changed. You lose air pressure. Yeah.
It's a rubber tire.
Yeah, they hold air, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like, they're not porous at all. Like, air molecules are like big, right?
And it's one of those things like it takes how long to check your tire pressure? Under a minute. You can get your front and rear wheel tire pressure dialed in. And so for me, before every single ride, I cannot remember a ride. I can actually. I lied. I remember one ride where I didn't check my tire pressure before I left, and it was because I overinflated my tires. And then the next day, I was like, I don't need to check these; they're way too hard anyway. But like every ride, take the minute, and it makes your ride experience better. Then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it's just a pattern now. It's just like I show up. That's what I do. I check the shocks and fork too, like because like if it's been more than a day, I will still check the air pressure in the shock and the fork, because I want to have a good ride. But
so that kind of check it that often.
If I ride like once a week, yeah, I'll check it that often. Especially because like sometimes I'm up in the mountains, and sometimes I'm down at the beach, right? So I'll have like thousands of feet of elevation change. So like I like to check it. Yeah. How often do you check yours?
I don't.
Ever.
No. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I set up my bike suspension. So let me explain how bad this is.
You cannot, Josh, you cannot complain about people not checking their tire pressure.
No, hey, whoa. I don't complain about my suspension. So I can get away with it because I never complain about it. It's the people who complain about their tire pressure. And it's like, you idiot, you didn't check it.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, people get flats and then they're like, I don't know what happened. When you check your tire pressure 2 months ago, you're an idiot, right? Alan, let me tell you how bad. You have no idea how bad it is. I tinker with my suspension on a new bike. I just got this beautiful Ibis and I like tinkered with it for like 5 rides and I got my suspension perfect. Oh wait, I did. Sorry, I did the bad thing on this bike too. I'm cracking myself up. I took this fork from a smuggler that I had, a transition smuggler. It's a 140 Fox 36. I tinkered with it. I set it. I always set my forks to be like 10 or 15 pounds, not in PSI, but for somebody 10 to 15 pounds heavier than I am. I like a very firm bike. And then I just never check it. And so literally when I built this bike up, I was like, that smuggler's been running good for like 4 months and I haven't checked that PSI. I just need to put that fork on here and that way I don't have to mess with it anymore.
Oh my God.
I got a new offering. I got a new evil offering and it can take the same eye to eye stroke on the shock. And I'm using the same fork. So literally I took the fork and shock off a bike I'd been using for 6 months without checking the pressure of the suspension. And I put it on the new bike and I won't check it for 6 months. I never had a problem, dude. It just works.
I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. Like, I don't know. That's just like that's crazy.
I don't know.
Like, I will check and I know a little bit of air comes out.
Yeah.
Right. I know that when you hook up the shock pump, but I will see like significant differences in my air pressure.
Do you know why? This blew my mind when I said this. Like I did the thing everybody does. Yeah, I pumped up my shock to 220 psi, and then the next day I plugged it in, and it was at 180 psi. And my Mike at the Losco, the bike shop here in town, he goes, "Well, realize something. Your air can is about, yay big, right? With like this much in it. So imagine adding a line of air in your shock pump, and when you take it off and you hear all the air coming out, that's the line of your shock pump releasing air. And so when you twist it on, all that air that was at that PSI is now filling the line and reducing it to like 185.
Yeah, no, that I get. But yeah. I've had it be higher the next time I checked it.
That's voodoo magic, man. You got a magic bike?
I don't. Yeah, it produces air, but I don't always know why. Because I know there's like negative chambers and positive chambers. I don't understand all of that. I don't know if you've ever looked at a chart of those things, or a chart, exploded diagram.
Yeah. Do you cycle your suspension when you fill it up with PSI? Like, okay, so then it should be fine. Yeah, I don't know. Like when I get my suspension serviced, which is never as much as I should, I always double check my PSI. Usually I forget what I've been riding, and then I do a bottom out test. I'm like, yep, that's good. But I don't know, man. Like I've set it and forget it my whole life. I've never had an issue.
Yeah, and you're not the only person. You're not the only like really good rider that I know who has done that. Yeah. So, I'm just not that. I don't know. I got to do it. How about this? This is one that you this one bugs me a little bit, to tell the truth. Unnecessary upgrades such as a Lyric or 36 or 38. No difference for 95% of people. GX Eagle to XX1. That kind of thing.
Yeah. And the pet peeve is people who have really good bikes. And they're just like, so my editor is a high school student, Isaac, and he just got a new YT and it had a Youre on it, a 170 millimeter, 29 inch wheel Youre. And he's like, man, I really want to get a Zeb. I'm like, why? Like the Youre is like a 35 millimeter stanchion. That's been tried and true. I've like done everything on a Youre or a Lyric. And he's like, I just feel like I need a little more stiffness. And I'm thinking, okay, is a Zeb more stiff? Yes. Do you need that? No. Right. Like, and that's like my big point is like, is an XX1 better than a GX? Yes, absolutely. Do 95% of the people need to make that upgrade? That's a huge financial cost. And will they notice the upgrade significantly? My answer is no. If you want your drivetrain to shift better, buy a different shifter. Then you'll notice the difference. But don't change the cassette and the derailleur. If you want different suspension, like just set it up properly. And unless you have a 32 millimeter stanchion fork on a 160 millimeter travel bike, like, goodness gracious. And like, here's the other thing. I have this Fox 36 Rhythm and I really want the Grip 2. I'm like, dude, I got the Grip 2. It works just like the other stuff, right? Like I've had a Marzocchi Z1, I've had a Marzocchi Z2, I've had the Grip 2, I have a 38. It's all the same, dude. Just shut your mouth and ride your bike. That's like me.
Yeah, just make sure not to put air in it.
Yeah, just don't check it, and then it's
just don't check it, and then you can't tell the difference between any of these forks.
Yeah, that's like somebody saying like, I gained so much weight over the holiday. I didn't gain anything. I haven't checked my weight in months. I'm the same weight my whole life. No, you idiot, check your weight. No, I'm good. I'm so dumb. I love it.
This is great. It's funny because I'm the exact person you're talking about, like to some degree. Like I just like I don't need a new shifter, but I got the new axis shifter.
Axis is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. I mean, for me, I look at the fact that I got things like the carbon reserve wheels on my bike. Yeah. I've got the axis dropper seat post on my bike, and now I have the axis shifter. However, the wheels were from 2 bikes ago.
Yeah.
I bring them with. The dropper seat was from a bike ago. And so now when I get my next bike, I'll be able to take all 3 of these upgrades with me to the next bike,
Yeah. That's an investment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I agree with you with the unnecessary upgrades, like the way you kind of spelled it out of if you're going from a 36 to a 38 maybe, I agree with that totally.
And again, you'll notice the difference, and I'm not in any way harping on people who notice the difference. It's my life's going to be so much better, it's going to make my riding better, I need this. No, you don't. Alan, you don't need an axis dropper post. Is it way easier to transfer on bikes? Yes. Is the lack of cable management great? Absolutely, but you don't need it. And that's why I love my Microshift Advent X, #not sponsored. It's $150 drivetrain, and I've never had any problems with it. Like, it's just like, I love that because and I'll get on my soapbox for a second. I wish more people were just content with what they had. Just be content. Your aluminum wheels and aluminum frame are great. I've never been held back because of an aluminum framed, aluminum everything bike. And so you're fine. Yes. Is it nicer? Sure. Can you notice it? Sometimes, but just chill out. Yeah.
It's funny. I see that in the comments sometimes where people will kind of imply jealousy, heartfelt jealousy about when I get something nice or when somebody else gets something nice. And I kind of feel for that because I don't ever want to inspire jealousy in people. And, but when people say that, I'm like, you're probably fine. You don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Contentment's hard. All right, Alan, tell me about your pet peeve with bike media. Talk about a hot topic subject. You're not a fan of Bike Raider or Pink Bike or.
Okay, so there's a couple of things. Okay, I'll get the quick one out of the way. And this is just a really minor thing. Like whenever you're watching a bike review and they talk about the pedaling and then they show the person, and maybe you can correct me, but they'll show the person standing up on their pedals, like muscling up a part of a trail. Do people actually do that? Is that something that you do?
No, I just get off and walk it. What?
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I don't know. Every time I see that, I'm like, do people ever do that? I mean, maybe it's not a pet peeve. It's one of those things where I go is that a thing?
It depends where you climb. Here in Washington, a lot of our climbs are just access roads, or you just sit and spin. But in Sedona, when we were there, we went and rode. Was it not Highline? It was Hangover. And Hangover, there were spots where you had to get up out of your saddle and kind of pedal to get over an obstacle. But then again, and I've had the same question, so I'm with you. So I don't know, but also that looks way more interesting to watch than somebody sitting on a saddle, just this is great.
Yeah, and I know that. I think that's kind of what's in the back of my head. It's hey, do the pedaling shot. Okay, like the last 5 times they pedaled up that part of the trail, they were sitting down and spinning. Yeah. And they're like, okay, we got to film the pedaling spot. Put your seat down.
Yeah.
So that's always in the back of my head. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I love watching bike media videos. I love like all of them, Bike Radar, Pink Bike, Vital MTB. There's just times when like I watch a review and I guess I'm just as guilty of this as anybody else, but I'll watch a review and it's like, it feels kind of soft or fence sitting kind of reviews where they're not like, maybe it's just that bikes are good now. Maybe I'm just kind of second guessing. Like I'm getting a little bit of therapy now of like understanding like maybe I don't need to be bothered by this.
Remember, we don't want to educate or give therapy. We just
sorry. Yeah, I'm just like media, man. They just I want them to be more angry about stuff.
That is a legitimate issue though. Is like, and this is another peeve. Like every bike is good, and that's a new thing. Like that wasn't the case 5-6 years ago. All 29ers were not created equally. And now it's like, I got this new Ibis because the geometry specs were almost identical to the Smuggler I had that was 3 years old. And it's like, I bought it because it has similar specs because every bike has that spec now. So yeah. I really do think most bikes are good. So
yeah, I get a lot of people like bugging me about like, how come you're not riding on a 29er?
Yeah. No, it bugs me. People who ride 27.5.
You? No,
I've never complained about that before. Yeah. Why didn't you get the Nomad is sick. Why didn't you get a 29er though?
Because they don't make the Nomad in a 29er. Yeah.
But they make the Mega Tower. That's like
They do make the Mega Tower. They do make the Mega Tower. It's the turning. Like I feel like I don't really enjoy the way they turn. Like I feel like descending. Oh. Yeah. I don't really like the way they turn. People talk about the butt rub and like, yeah, that'll happen sometimes, but it's not that big of a deal. Just kind of like, like Yuka rides like a 29er or has been riding a 29er and she kind of got used to that. So like it's just kind of the way it turns, I think, more than anything. And I think I would kind of go more mullet anyway. Like that's kind of where I would go. Yeah.
I'm down for a mullet with a downhill bike. And the one thing I always bring up and this is when people are like, nah, 27.5. And I'm like, that bothers me. And here's why. Okay. We're enduro riding. Look at the EWS. Name anybody who rides a 27.5. And the truth is none of them do. They all ride 29. And then somebody goes, well, good thing I'm not an enduro racer. And I'm like, yes, you're not an enduro racer. But is my point that I want you to be an enduro racer? Or is my point, if every athlete at the top of their game riding these trails up and down better than all of us have all adapted to a new standard, if certain companies are no longer making 27.5, which you'll notice very few companies, like Santa Cruz is one of them, who's still making good 27.5 bikes. But they're less and less common. And I believe they will be less and less common. And it's that there is small takeaways of 29, but I think the gains are there. So like when you say in turning, like, oh, downhill. Yeah, sure. Like they do definitely have more rolling weight because they're a bigger wheel. Jumps and whipping and cool stuff that I can't do. Right. I'll take your word for it that 29ers aren't as good. But I don't know. Like, again, I think that's just the way the market's going to go. I think it's going to be hard to find 27.5 bikes in 4 years. That's just my 2 cents.
I don't know if I'd agree. So my thing about the EWS racers is like that whole conversation about fast or fun. Yeah. Right. Like, yes, like I totally agree that 29 is fast, is generally faster than a 27.5 going downhill and going uphill because you have like a little bit more leverage, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I do think that the 27.5 is just kind of more of a fun bike. And that's kind of how I looked at the Nomad. I didn't look at it as like, I'm going to beat people down the hill or up my Strava times. I looked at it as like, I want a bike that I'm going to do more alt lines. I'm going to like throw it around a lot more. And I should say, I've been riding with people who are on 29s and they're not pulling away from me.
Well, but that's their skill, right? And that's
no. It's because I have more travel.
Phil Metz on a Walmart bike would kick all of our butts, right? And
well, yeah, totally.
Yeah. But
Totally.
yeah,
I mean,
to each their own. And I don't really have an issue with people who like 27.5 bikes, but I could be wrong in this. And it's not a peeve. It's just like, I think we're going to see the industry go very far away from 27.5. I could be wrong.
I think that we're going to see an experimentation, a year of experiments with mixed wheel size.
Yeah.
And then I'm curious, like, where we're going to end up there, like after that. Like, are they going to be able to make a mixed wheel size that can still pedal up the hill pretty well? Because like going downhill on a mixed wheel size is like, that was the first time I experienced it was on the Bullet, but it's not exactly a good example because I've got it's a 50-pound bike, you know? But I did go when things got steep, man, that felt really, really good to that felt really good. But I'm not, I can't think of anything I didn't like about that. So this is off topic, Josh.
Okay, Alan, I got my next peeve that really gets me hard. I got a couple of them that man, every time I ride with somebody new or certain friends of mine, but especially with somebody new, the complaint train just pulls into the station. Oh man, I'm sorry I'm so slow. It's like, you're not slow. Oh, I'm sorry I'm holding you back. Oh, I know I'm not as fast of a climber. And it's just like, it bothers me so much. And I have to tell people, please stop. If you were really slow, I would never want to ride with you again. I ride with you every week. So I love to ride with you. Like, you're not slow. And if you're going slow on a climb, I've never met a climb that I wouldn't prefer to go slower on. I just, choose to go faster. And if I get to the bottom of a 10-minute downhill and somebody shows up a minute later, that's not slow. That's holding their own. Like, right. If they show up 10 minutes later on every trail, then they're on two advanced trails, and that's on me for taking them there. But for most people who are into mountain biking, and I was a high school coach on a mountain bike team for a long time, and people, like, kids are just trying. Like, if you're trying and having a good attitude, then everybody wants to ride with you. Your attitude's everything. So quit making excuses.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'll tell this story. I rode with somebody who was like, got upset. Partly they were upset at themselves, like emotional about like being not fit enough. And then was a little bit upset at us because we weren't going as slow as them. And I was kind of like, it's fine. Like, I always look at it as like, if you don't go as fast, if you don't pedal as fast or go down as fast, it's because maybe you're not, well, for whatever reason, maybe you haven't been riding as long as you're just not working on the skill, but that's okay. Like, and if you don't ever get better, that's on you. And if you don't have to, like, you don't have to get better. You don't have to get faster. Like, if your attitude is good and you're having fun, like, I'm all about that. But yeah. It's not that important.
Yeah.
It's not that important. How about this? You are bugged when somebody says that they're sponsored as a YouTuber.
Oh, not just as a YouTuber, but especially as a YouTuber. It's I'm sponsored by this company. And I go, you're a 14-year-old who is good, but you don't make any social media content. All you do is ride your bike better than I do. And a company in town gave you a free set of handlebars. That's not a sponsorship. Or a YouTuber who's like, hey, I'm sponsored by Tasco Gloves now. And I'm like, I know the owner of Tasco Gloves. Nate isn't going to sponsor you because we've had conversations and I'm like, I don't want to be sponsored by you. I don't think you should choose sponsorship. And Nate's like, yeah, I'm not really down with sponsorship because there's other ways like affiliates and stuff. And it's like, oh, it turns out you got a free pair of $35 gloves and can make an affiliate link code. That is not a sponsorship. That's a partnership, right? And the only people who are sponsored, and push back on me, but my pet peeve, the only people who are sponsored is if you are getting a paycheck, if you're getting cash money to use a product, that's a sponsorship. And if we keep that the base, then that's great. If you get flow, if you get free items from a company in order for your marketing ability or because you're a good rider, that's great. Just say, I get flow from this company, or I'm working with this company. Just don't say sponsored. That's different.
I agree. I'm
Yeah.
particular about terms too.
Yeah.
Like when people say dampener, oh man, that really bugs me. What a
doesn't bug
tool. What a tool.
Did I put something about that on here?
Yeah, you said it's bro culture that people think you're a tool if you say
dude.
dampener instead of damper.
When I first started YouTube, I got roasted just so bad. It still haunts me. It's like I made bike reviews and I'm like, yeah, this bike was harder to wheelie, so it's not a good climber. And I'm like, yeah, like, in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, that's very cringy. Like I should never have said that. And the bro coach was just like, see, I knew this guy was a tool and he sucks at riding. And look at what he said. What an idiot. This wheelie is a bad climber. I'm like, dude, I started mountain biking a year ago. To me, I thought that meant it was a bad climber because I watch pink bike videos and I watch people do standing climbs and I can't do standing climbs. So I just thought this was what it means, right? And yeah. So people get mad. It's like, it's damper, not dampener. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I know what you're saying. It's like people who are like, oh, it's extra, not extra. I'm like, yeah, if you say, can I get some extra ranch with my fries? I'm not going to say, what do you want? I don't understand you. Are you trying to, are you an extra in this? Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. I digress.
It's extra espresso.
Yeah.
Can I get an extra shot of espresso?
Espresso. I need it fast. Oh, espresso? Great.
Yeah. That's actually funny because I used to be a barista and people used to be like they used to do the same thing. They would judge you if they would judge a customer if they said espresso.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, well, that's actually what it means. Like in Italian, it's espresso is Italian for express. So it's espresso. I'm going to call it espresso from now on.
Did you work at a real coffee shop or Starbucks?
I worked at a real coffee house. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I went to school in Portland, and so people are like, I love coffee. I'm such a coffee fan. I'm like, dude, let me guess. Do you like the Sumatra from Starbucks? They're like, yeah, that's my favorite. I'm like, you're not a coffee fan. I'm sorry. You don't know good coffee.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great.
Another pet peeve, not mountain bike related, kind of mountain bike.
No,
there you go.
Yeah, coffee. Yeah, no, I've got coffee pet peeves too. But yeah, this one bugs me too. You said that you don't like when people upgrade everything they have before thinking about their helmet.
Yeah, dude, I see people with I've got like a blue helmet right here, which is like an old skateboarding helmet. I see people on the trails all the time. I'm like, that helmet costs $20. Your brain is worth so much more than that. A lot of my helmets back here, not they're all gone now because I broke them. Were ones that I got.
Ones up on the shelf?
Maybe this one, yes. Are ones that I got in an accident with, and I broke the helmet. I've broke 5 helmets, and of all the helmets I've broke, only one of them did I get a concussion with. And the one helmet that I got a concussion with was one. It was a bad fall, so it could have been that. It was the cheapest helmet that I had. On all the helmets I spent more money on, the Bell Supers, like I knocked my head hard and I didn't get concussions. Is that the helmet or is that the accident? I don't know, but here's what I do know. Your brain is worth way more than your bike and your knee pads and your shoes. Spend $5,000 on a helmet because it's worth it. If it really does protect your head, it MIPS and new technologies work. So
100% agree.
Yeah.
And if you fall on your helmet, you replace it. Replace it. Like, I know they're expensive. Couple $100, $100. I don't. How much is I only buy full face helmets, so it's always like $200.
Yeah.
Or $175 or $200.
A nice half shell, like a Bell Sixer, is like $140. So it's still expensive for a half shell.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I think we've gone through. How did we get through all of your pet peeves? I think we've got through all of them.
You just fed the angry train, and I just took it.
Jeez.
I just took it down the rails, man. Yeah.
Man,
no, I think we did get through all of them that we wrote.
There were so many.
I know. Any other pet peeves that you can think of?
Not off the top of my head. Do you have time though to go through some of our viewer listener ones?
Oh,
yeah, one of those?
I got 10 minutes. Let's cover some of the viewers ones.
Let's do it.
If we disagree with him, that would be funny too. If we both disagree.
So here's one that I'll bring this one up because I saw a number of these, like this one from Mountaineer 12, Mike Mountaineer, mentioned Bluetooth speakers. Or I think just kind of speakers like playing music on the trails. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I saw somebody today who was doing that. So when I read that, I kind of chuckled. I'm like, oh yeah. If you want to play a Bluetooth wireless speaker like on your ride up, it's almost better than headphones because you can, they are going to have a hard time hearing me. People with headphones, it's hard to tell if they are wearing headphones, or I can be like, oh, hey. And literally it's not me trying to get by him. It's just me saying like, hi, how are you doing? And I'm like, hi. And then they'll be like, whoa. Right. And so it's better than that. It doesn't bug me. Sometimes when it's like gangster rap dropping the N-word left and right and talking about doing bad things to hoes, I'm like, yeah, I don't want that up here. But like, that's just because I'm an old man, basically.
Yeah. I mostly agree in that, like, I would, if I had to choose one or the other in terms of trail safety, I would go with the Bluetooth speaker because then at least they can hear it. The flip side is like, I don't always want to hear other people's music. But then on the flip side, like sometimes, like depending on a person's culture, that's kind of just part of it. Like music is always part of the culture as a group. And it's like a group experience and you take it kind of wherever you go. So sometimes like I kind of have to let those things go. But I think it was a pet peeve for me, and it's becoming less of one now, I guess. Here's when I don't like it. Here's when it is a pet peeve for me is when you're at the top of a trail and there's like a bunch of people around or just people around and they're just blasting something. Like if you hit play, like when you drop in, then I'm like, cool. But like, just like blasting like something. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say I would not do that. I would not want people I ride with to do that. But when I see other people doing it, I kind of think it's cool. I'm like, I don't know. I think it's cool. I don't care. Yeah.
Any of these other ones popping out to you?
I got to pull it up again so I can see them all. Yeah. There were so many good ones.
There's, and I just going back to this, I've never gotten this much response on any Instagram question before. There's like so
people are like, let me tell you why I'm ticked off.
There's so much angst. I'm like, I didn't know there was so much angst on the trail. Here's one that's kind of funny. I think we can all relate to and doesn't like blame anybody else, but it's like, this is from CTG surfs.sc. That click on my bike that seemingly has no cause.
Oh yeah, dude, that is the biggest pet peeve. When my when my bike squeaks, I'm so bothered. When someone else's bike is squeaky, I don't really care. But when my bike squeaks, oh dude, I'm so ticked. I'm like, I'm the worst. I greased everything. I got a new bike and the squeak is still there. I don't know where this is coming from.
I've got a little click in my dropper seat post right now. Like, I think it's the collar or something. I think it's the collar because I didn't do it on the Bronson. It's doing it on the Nomad. So I don't know if I need to put a little bit more like whatchamacallit, fiber grip something.
Oh yeah, like grip paste. If you record that sound and play it backwards on a like a cassette player, it'll say buy 29, buy 29. That's what it's trying to say. I love Gordon Nichols. He said Fox Kashima coating or Kashima. Kashima coating colors not matching, aka the Kashima on your fork does not match the Kashima on your shock, does not match it on your dropper. Is it gold? Is it brown?
Is it brown? Is it copper?
And I cannot count the amount of times that I'm like, oh, weird. They have a Fox Kashima dropper, but they must be using some off-brand fork. Oh, it's Fox. Oh, weird. That's not the same, right? Yeah.
Actually, Gordon Nichols has a bunch of them that look like we're cracking me up.
Dude,
like
he should be on this. Not me and you. It just should be Gordon. Like, let me tell you what ticks me off.
Like guys who don't wash their knee pads and gear and then sit next to you on the lift.
Those guys, dude. I ride with some dudes who like they're not allowed to pedal in front of me because I'm like, dude, you reek. And climbing on a slow climb on a single track with somebody who stinks, it's like we're all like it's never a woman that stinks that I ride with. It's always men. It's like, dude, you stink. We're both guys. Get to the back.
Dude, it's there's that. I've known a couple of people who like they think like mountain biking is dirty. So like nothing can ever be clean. Like my bike's dirty, everything's dirty, all my gear is dirty. And I'm like, no, that it doesn't have to be that way.
We don't have to live that life. We don't have to write that story.
No, we don't have to be that person.
Yeah.
Cool, man. I think this is great. I think we've done a good job of complaining and getting it out there and channeling the angst that is there in the mountain bike community. Yeah. It's great. I say, get the angst going, use it to get up the hills, use it to get down the hills.
I love that. I think we've done a good job complaining. That's like writing on like a performance review at work. Like, what have you done well? I've complained really well about how much everyone sucks at this job.
I have tuned my ability to complain about things.
Well, Alan, I think we should let people comment what we missed and then make it 2.0 and get Gordon in on this, man.
Oh, dude. Yes. If you have gotten this far in this podcast, you love some complaining. So hit us in the comments with all the stuff that we missed. And I do appreciate, I know there was so much angst in the comments. I'm sorry we didn't get to more of them, but I have to tell you, before the podcast, before we got on, I was just scrolling through them, just laughing at like so many of the comments. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Good times. Well, thanks for having me, man. This was rad.
Hey, man. Thanks for coming on. We'll have to do this again, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
Yeah. All right, crew. Everybody, thanks for tuning in and listening to this. Josh, any last words?
Hey, whatever you do, stop listening to this podcast, but get out there, ride your bike, and make sure you do it every now and then. Okay, every day.
Every day. Oh, dang it. I was going to jump in with you. All right, crew. All right, crew. Go. Have a rad day. All right, crew. Hope you dug that. Until next episode, like this video, subscribe this channel, notify that bell, but most importantly, go have a rad day.
This is the Airhorn Podcast. Gonna slow down and talk about going fast. It's another mountain biking podcast, and we sometimes answer questions you have. Listen at 1 1/4 speed. You can listen in any order you please. It